Hey Dan, how are you?
Hey Maria, I'm doing great, thank you.
One of the things that we often tout about Corti and Corti's AI platform is that we're available to interact with via API. So you could directly engage with, interact with our API endpoints to build healthcare specific workflows. But what's also cool is that we have this Corti Assistant product that in many ways showcases the power of our AI platform. And so we want to today draw the link between our underlying AI platform and the power of it that is available via API, but also how it powers the workflows that we demonstrate in our Corti Assistant flagship application. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. So I think we can take a look at our documentation, an API test harness, and then we'll take a look at Corti Assistant and try to draw the parallels between them and show how they're all able to do the same things.
Awesome. So you are on our API documentation, docs.corti.ai, hovering over the how it works page and then going to a specific workflow.
Yes, so I'm on docs.corti.ai. We're looking at the How It Works page where we have some description of the endpoints. But instead of going into those details, what I'm going to look at today is the real-time ambient documentation workflow. And so on the workflow pages, we describe how to string together a number of different requests in order to build a workflow for an application. And so that's where today, when we focus on real-time ambient, we're talking about using a web streaming interaction to stream audio, generating transcripts and facts real time during the audio stream. And then using the facts that are generated, you're able to create clinical notes. And so this is inherent to the workflow of Corti Assistant, but also vendors and application developers are welcome to mimic this process and build out their own ambient documentation workflows. And it doesn't have to follow this exact pattern. It's more of an example of the art of the possible. And so I thought it might be helpful today to take a look at Corti Assistant itself and how it uses these capabilities. And then we'll also show what it looks like inside of an API test harness.
Excellent. Sounds great. Let's move to the demo.
And then last thing I'll highlight is just from where is the raw API details. You can find that under API reference, real-time transcript and fact generation, WebSocket stream. So that's where, it's all summarized on this page.
So what you were showing before the workflow is an overview of the request sequence and whatnot, and this is in the API reference documentation, so more of the specific API calls.
Exactly, yes. All right, so first let's start with Corti Assistant, and then we'll look at a test harness. So here inside of Corti Assistant, I'm logged in with my user, and if I want to create a new session, I click the little plus sign, and in the back end, this is creating that interaction. And now that I have an interaction, I already have my microphone configured. We're able to now start recording. You want to play patient today?
Yes, I will do it, and I'll surprise you with a new ailment.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm going to use an AI product so I can focus my attention on you and not documentation. Is that okay?
Yes, it is.
Great. All right, so I started recording, and while we have our conversation, the transcript is being generated. Reading all the details of the transcript is not super interesting, so those are hidden out of the way by default, but I'll leave it open just for a moment, and then you'll notice behind the scenes, the Corti Assistant is analyzing the transcripts and going to be extracting facts, and so that's what's going on behind the scenes of that Streams API that you saw in the API reference. But let's jump in. Tell me what's going on today. How are you?
Hello. I woke up with a upset stomach this morning, and it hasn't gone away.
Okay, and so it was when you woke up with it, did it disturb you overnight, or it was just you kind of noticed it when you woke up normal, getting ready to get out of bed?
I noticed that I didn't have a ton of appetite last night, but I slept okay, and I woke up and I still didn't have a ton of appetite and just feeling some aches and pains in my stomach.
I see. Okay, aches and pains in the stomach, low appetite. Have you had this before? Does it occur regularly, or this is kind of a new thing?
It's a new thing.
Okay. And did you eat anything unusual that you don't normally eat yesterday
No,
or the
I
day
don't
before?
think, no, I can't think of anything in particular that I ate that made me feel unwell. Yeah,
Okay.
it's just my stomach, and then I feel like a little bit of chest pain as well.
Chest pain. Okay. And have you ever had any history of like reflux before, or had anything that previously caused a disruption to your diet or appetite or stomach, feeling stomach pains?
Not frequently, but I know my dad suffers from that quite a bit, and he developed that in adulthood.
Okay. So he suffers from like GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
And have you taken anything to help with the pain or the potential reflux, like, Tums or Advil, ibuprofen? Have you taken anything at all?
I've taken a couple of Tums and it helped a little bit, but I still don't have an appetite.
Okay. And now tell me, is the pain like really sharp or is it more of like a kind of throbbing discomfort?
It's more of a throbbing discomfort, ache, not sharp.
Okay. Central, localized, left, right, up, down, like whereabouts in your abdomen?
Central and then kind of like lower chest as well.
Central and lower chest. Okay. So the fact that it's not a sharp pain and it's not lower left or right quadrant, I'm hoping it's not, an appendix or gallbladder that you might have something going on there. It sounds like maybe it's more of like a reflux type issue. Now, last thing is, have you been exposed to anyone that was sick or were you traveling at all, like where you could have picked up a bug?
I actually was at a party this weekend, and one of my good friends was very sick or came down with something the next day.
Okay. All right. Well, I think, we should maybe just do a little abdominal ultrasound just to make sure that there's not something going on with the gallbladder or appendix. We can also consult with gastro and do maybe an endoscopy to see if you have some reflux going on. This is something that could have been silent for a long time, but now acting up to the point where it's causing that discomfort, and can look at a Protonix or some type of medication to help control that and give you to alleviate that discomfort and then prevent it in the future. In the meantime, I think you can continue taking Tums as indicated on the bottle, drink lots of water. And if it gets more severe, if it turns to a sharp pain, or if you otherwise, vomit or have blood in the stool or discomfort while urinating, anything like that, of course, please call the office, maybe go to the ER and get that seen right away. But
Thank
otherwise,
you.
is that okay? We'll follow up with GI and do an ultrasound, see if there's anything going on.
That sounds like a good plan.
All right. Well, thanks. I hope you feel better. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
All right. So we stopped our audio recording and now you see the facts catching up. So they're wrapping up the processing. We saw the transcript being generated as we had our whole conversation. Our facts here are summarized within groups: history of present illness, denial of symptoms, family history, medication, social history plan. And so it's categorizing them to help with my review. And we can see that we're recommending an abdominal ultrasound. We're going to consult GI. Maybe we'll consider Protonix. For now, I'm going to, this is speculative. So maybe we don't want that to be in our note until we let GI do their thing so we can remove that fact. And obviously, yeah, we'll take Tums as you need to, and we'll seek immediate medical attention if it gets worse. Maybe also, nothing, I don't know if there's anything else to remove, but if I wanted to add something, travel to, I don't know, maybe you went on a trip that might be relevant. I don't know. So we'll add that in here. But I'm able to type or dictate and add information as I need to. This context is then what's used for generating a note. What do you think? Does that seem to summarize our visit that we had?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And if I wanted to capture more audio, I can resume that. So there's the ability to start and stop recording as you need to. And now if we want to generate a note, I'll click generate. By default, it's going to use an H&P, a history and physical, because it's just a comprehensive template. So I like that one just for conversational purposes. I click generate, and now it's going to create that note summary based on that context, all the facts and anything that was added. And of course, the details that are removed should not be present in my note. Things that we did not discuss are listed as empty. Of course, that's configurable by whoever's building their apps. So here we have it defined to show it even when it's empty for against inspiring our conversation. But overall, it creates a note. And then if I want to create an additional note, I can click the plus sign or I can click the generate button again. And maybe we now want a patient-facing summary or a SOAP note, like different styles of a different type of document, but still medical-facing. So let's generate a SOAP note. Same facts, same content, but now we're creating a new document type. And there it is.
It's awesome. So this is a wonderful user interface for a clinician to operate their clinical documentation workflow, interact with the patient, see all of this come to life on their screen. And what we want to demonstrate is that it is the Corti AI platform that is powering this experience. And a customer could also interact directly with the API and build their own user interface that does a similar thing if they follow the guidelines on documentation that describe how to build this workflow.
That's correct. So actually, let me in my documentation, if I go back to the workflow. So here what you see is we'll create the interaction, and the server will respond with the interaction ID and that WebSocket URL. And then we're able to start the audio stream. We use a configuration to give parameters to the way the system should be detecting the audio. And then we can start sending audio packets, and we'll get the transcripts and facts in response. And then when we're done recording audio, we'll say stop, we'll review the facts, and then we can create the document. And so that sequence is what you saw in the application workflow, and we can show a little bit of a more raw version of that in this test harness. So first, I'll create an interaction. By default, we're showing John Doe, but I'm here with Maria. And maybe we'll change it from male to female. We could set birth date. All this context helps to configure that interaction. In response, I get the interaction ID and the WebSocket URL. So here we're visualizing that communication with the server. Now we can look at starting our audio stream. First, I'll specify the microphone, and the payloads is where you can configure, you can set the configuration that it's going to be English. I'm just going to ramble myself real quick to show this one. So we're not going to diarize, it's not multi-channel, and we want to see the facts in response. So we'll start the audio stream. All right,
so
Maria
all of that is happening in the background when a user of Corti Assistant clicks new session and start recording, and they select their microphone and things like that on the user interface. This is all an illustrative view using this demo harness of what's happening in the API.
Exactly right. So that's where the Corti Assistant workflow product has a much more pretty view of this, but this is a little bit of a more raw, what you might configure in your application to do, and how you set the configuration. And now as we're talking, we see that in the audio streams open, we see the transcript being returned. Maria was a 30-year-old woman who came in complaining of abdominal discomfort. It started yesterday. She did not notice any new changes in diet. She was exposed to someone who is ill. We do not suspect appendectomy is necessary or any gallbladder issues, but we're going to consult with GI and also do an abdominal ultrasound to be sure. She's going to continue taking Tums in the meantime. All right, so I'll stop my stream. The transcripts being generated, the facts were returned real time, but the rest of them just wrapped up there at the end. They're generating every 60 seconds or so, whereas the transcript is live real time. And then if we wanted to generate our note, let's collapse this. We'll go down to the last part of the request of generate document. And in the payload, you'll see that all the facts that were generated are selected by default. If I change my selection, you'll see them being removed from the payload of what's going to be in the request for generating the note. So again, this would be in the control of the application developer to design a mechanism for how you want to create the JSON that goes in the API request for note. This is a fact-based workflow. The API documentation explains how you can use transcripts to generate notes. You can use just multiple strings of text. So there's a lot of flexibility in what you want to use as input. And then also what you'll define is your template key and output language. And so by default, I have H&P selected just like I did in the Corti Assistant. We'll click generate with all of our facts selected, and we should see that document returned. So there's the detailed response message. The JSON object that you get from the API response is broken out by section, so you can build out the document in whatever your display is, or if you want to map the output into different sections of your EHR, of course you can do that. But we also just have a simple visualizer here, and of course I just talked for like 10 seconds, so there's not a lot of rich detail in this example, but hopefully you get the point of how the API request is the same here in a little bit of a more visualized fashion, just like it is in the workflow product of Corti Assistant. And if I want to, I think we did a SOAP note, right? So if I do Corti SOAP as a different note type, this was a SOAP note, we can generate a second document. So same process as what you saw in, again, the Corti Assistant app, but calling the API directly, I can send numerous requests to generate multiple notes, and it'll apply the different document type formatting. And if I wanted to do a patient summary, a referral letter, et cetera, I just use those different template keys to go generate multiple documents.
That's super clear. What about in the Corti Assistant application when a user will interact with the AI chat functionality on the side? How does that use the API?
Well, let's hop back to Corti Assistant first and take a look at that, and then we can look at an example in our test harness. So in the Corti Assistant workflow, I have this little indicator here for the AI assistant. And now I might say, maybe this is from not just 10 minutes ago, but a few weeks ago. What was going on? Summarize the interaction. And then the agent is going to reason over this and create a quick little summary for me of what the whole conversation was. And of course, if it's a long 40-minute patient conversation, there might be more to summarize than our quick little test. I might say, suggest ICD-10 codes for the visit. Maybe we want the subjective to be bullet points instead of a paragraph. So this is a way I can, quickly update my documentation. I can request ICD-10 codes. We can get summaries. We can look up guidelines and best practices. So we can connect the experience to if our customers have an up-to-date license, or if you want to use publicly available knowledge bases or tie into your own proprietary knowledge bases, we can do so. And if we switch into the test harness, you can see a little more of what's happening under the hood. And if I click on this agent, here we have some example IDs, example interactions, excuse me. So this panic attacks and stress, we can see there's an interaction behind the scenes, and I'll tell the system, just like we did in Corti Assistant, to summarize the interaction. And so here you can see in the request, we're providing the query, summarize the key information of this interaction in bullet points, and use this interaction ID. And now the system is looking over all the information in that interaction and giving me a quick summary of what's going on there. In the response, you'll see that all that detail. So this is what you would get from the API, and then you can present in obviously whatever interface makes sense. We might also, there's a lot going on with this interaction. What are the ICD-10 codes that are relevant? And here it's generating those ICD-10 codes for me. There is, some threading here so that we can keep the context going. And it's using the tool of medical code document to generate those ICD-10 codes.
So it has several different tools at its disposal, and based on the request that comes in through the chat, it basically reasons and decides which tool to access and how to come back with a response.
That's correct. And so here, no tool is specified in my request, and the system figured out, it sounds like I should use the medical code document tool for that. But there is also an option to specify the tool in the request if you want to guide it directly to what to do. And again, that would be up to developers against the API, and they're designing a interface to workflow. Developers building against our API can decide what tools they want to use or how they want to thread these requests.
Awesome. That was super clear to me. And I think a really great linkage between how developers could use our API to access our AI platform to build these workflows and these capabilities into their workflows, and also how we have done it for our customers of Corti Assistant in our own user interface and application to showcase all of this awesome technical work that happens in the background.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think that if you look into the details of the API, there's probably more functionality available or coming available than what's currently in Corti Assistant. But Corti Assistant is packaging key capabilities into a common workflow that we know is in demand in the industry to help reduce administrative burden and just alleviate those clerical responsibilities for clinicians so they can focus their attention on patient care and themselves, of course.
Makes awesome sense. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for being a good doctor today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for being a good patient. Fun to go through it with you.
See you later.
See ya.